So as I said, there we go. Okay. As I said, in this section, we will be talking about checklists. This is actually the shortest section. And again, checklists you can use to keep track of your progress. You probably have some type of checklist you already use. There are different apps and programs you can use. I'll share with you later one that I use that I find super helpful. Some people have a paper-based system where they write things down on paper. That can work. But I think a lot of people, something digital is a little easier to keep track of. You can access it from many different devices. You're not using trees, which is a benefit. I guess you do use electricity, but hopefully more and more electricity will be renewable. So just like the way I run my classes, there are often options that are paperless, right, and more efficient. And so we'll look at one app that you could use for checklists. But before, I want to show you a video that illustrates how important checklists are and how, for some reason, even in really critical professions like surgeries, where they could benefit from checklists, sometimes surgeons don't use them. Maybe they think they're so smart and so talented, they don't need them. But according to research done here by the speaker, you will see that actually they can be very effective at leading to better outcomes. So let me go ahead and cue up this video. Thought it was interesting what he said about culture. You know, in the US, we have a very individualistic culture. You've probably heard me say that before. What's going on here? Okay. We're very individualistic in the US. We're very short-term focused. And like he had the image of the cowboy, right? We think cowboys, they're out there on the range, they know what they're doing. You don't imagine cowboys with checklists. But then when he interviewed a cowboy, a real life modern rancher, cowboy told him we use checklists to make sure we get everything done, right? So there's, I think ego is part of it. I think it's our belief that we don't need to rely on a group. We don't need to rely on documentation. We can just do it all ourselves. We're all Superman or Superwoman, right? But in reality, we're not. We're all fallible. And these checklists can help us plan, right? In creating the checklist, you're saying these are the things that are important to me. And then they help you track your progress. You can check things off as you go through. The tool I like to use is called Todoist. Anybody familiar with that? Anybody used that before? It was mentioned to me by a student many, many years ago. And I had my own system I was using at the time. I think I was using Microsoft OneNote to keep track of my to-do list. It wasn't a great system. It's not even really designed for that. I don't know why I was using that. But I was just used to it, and so I was using it. And after the student recommended Todoist, I put it on my to-do list to check it out. But I kept putting it off, and then about 6 months later, I finally checked it out, and I thought, you know what? I actually like this. And there are other programs. I'm not going to say that this is necessarily the best program, but I use it every day, all day, every day. And I find it really useful. In fact, I'll just go ahead and open it up here. For one thing, most of the features are free. I've never paid for this service. I only use their free version. They might be selling my data. I have no idea how they make money. but I'm sure some people upgrade to the paid version. I never felt like I needed to do that. And yes, I do have 104 things on my to-do list. No, they're not all gonna get done today, even though they're in the today category. But you can customize things with different colors. So if I want to create a task, whatever, go home after teaching. Of course, I wouldn't really put that, but it was the first thing that came to my mind. I could just put what day that's going to be. I could put which category I want it to be in, and just add it. And then you can go to a certain group of tasks. Like I've got my Hartnell tasks here. You can go to today's tasks, which the ones I'm really going to do today, way down here at the bottom. The rest of them were all like past due. But anyways, I find it to be a really neat system. And what I really like about it, and I guess a lot of other programs are similar, when you're done with a task, you just, well, let me go ahead and add a task. It's whatever. If I add a task, when you're done, click on it and it disappears. Kind of like when you're on social media and you click a like button or some other kind of button like a like button. Supposedly a little bit of dopamine gets released in your brain. You get this positive feeling. I don't know why. That's just how we're wired. That's how I feel when I check something off my to-do list. It's like, yes. And then when I look and see there are 104 things, I'm like, that's not good. But that's what summer is for, right? Usually by the end of summer, I get it down to like 2 things. And then it starts building up again. So anyways, I use To-Do List. You might want to check it out. This is not a paid promotion, but I've just found it super helpful. Well, what other programs? Who else uses a program for this sort of purpose? What do you use, Emma?
I don't actually use a program, but I worked with them
Oh, okay.
for a little while.
Uh-huh.
I was trying to get I mean, actually some of like the most successful people in the world use a to-do list.
Okay.
But
Good to know.
he made it like very specific, like you're trying to do, but you also give it a time.
Okay.
Like you're not just gonna get like, you know, say, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then I get lost in the thoughts, and then the whole day is gone because I was like hyper focused on one thing. So like if you say, example, I'm gonna do this assignment, and then you give a time limit 2 hours, and then when 2 hours is done, that's it.
Well, and things that are at a specific time, or you're specifying what time you're going to do it, then you can put that on the calendar too, right? So I use both.
He was saying like Mary, the lady who,
Mary Kay.
yeah, and then like one of the rock, they did that, and you get a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If you write down what you're going to do, and then check it off. Now, you might not get everything done on the list, but it does help you prioritize and make sure you don't forget things. So what other programs are you all using for keeping track of things you need to do?
All I use is a whiteboard calendar. That's it. Keep everything just write everything down.
Okay, so like this kind of whiteboard, a physical whiteboard? Okay, well, that works. What else? What's that? Notes? It's on a Mac? Oh, on the iPhone. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I use that too, but I use it for other things.
Your passwords.
My wife says the cutest, funniest things, because English is not her first language, and even though she's fluent, she says things that are just so adorably cute. I've started a list. She doesn't really know about the list. I think she suspects there's a list, but I share it with my kids. They'll enjoy that. What else? What other programs do you use? Reminders app. Okay. Is that come with the phone? Okay. I'll use my calendar usually if I want to be reminded of something. So there are many different options, whatever works for you, right? But you might check out Todoist if you're interested. What's next here? So let's look at how you could use a checklist, for example, if you are in the job market. You might have a checklist, something like this, which would start with, what do I want out of this job that I'm looking for? What pay do I want? What hours? What locations? If you just start looking for a job, you might end up with something that you're not really crazy about. You just kind of fell into it. But if you specify what is it I'm looking for, then you can target your search, right? And you're more likely to find something that is suitable. And if something comes along that's not what you wanted, it's easier to say, this is not what I wanted, because you identified what you wanted. So then you could do your search, and obviously there are a lot of different ways you could do that. A lot of people use online job search sites. LinkedIn is really common. Both my daughter and my son have used LinkedIn both by having a profile and then reaching out to recruiters on LinkedIn, or recruiters reaching out to them. But another thing that they've both done is when you notice somebody posts a job opening in their company, so they're not a recruiter, but they're just saying, hey, my company's hiring for such and such position, if you know anybody that's interested. A lot of times that's great because you then can make a personal connection with that person. And maybe, because a lot of companies pay referral bonuses if you refer somebody and they get hired for a job. So maybe if you reach out to that person, they're hoping to get a referral bonus, they'll have an incentive to help you get the job, because they'll also get a bonus. Right? So that's a kind of a neat strategy that they've stumbled across. But there are other sites. What are some sites you all have used for searching for jobs? Indeed. One of the big ones these days. ZipRecruiter, I think Monster.com is still out there. That used to be the biggest one, but probably not anymore. There's Craigslist, but you never know. You gotta really watch out on Craigslist, right? You never know what you're gonna. It could be a scam. What are some other big ones for job searching? You can go to companies' own websites. They often have their own job section. Kara?
The Hartnell job website.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Hartnell has Job Seeker. It pulls in jobs from lots of different sources, and some jobs that are specifically from companies that are looking for Hartnell students. And it does something cool as well, where it looks at your academic record to help narrow down which jobs you would be qualified for based on the classes you've taken.
Jordan, this one's specifically for like government jobs, but if you do calcareers.org, that one's good for like county jobs.
What is it called?
Calcareers.org.
Calcareers.org. Okay.
It's got like a lot of useful information.
Okay. All right. Any other recommendations? USAjobs.gov, I think. Yeah. Which one? The counties on the Monterey County's website.
So if you ever like are looking for a job and you want to fair wage.
Okay. Yeah, government jobs, the salaries are not confidential, so you can find out what people actually get paid in particular jobs. So let's see, a couple things came to mind. If you do want to use Hartnell's Job Seeker tool, you can access it through Duo or My Hartnell. It's one of the icons on there. And another thing I'll point out, if you go over to the library, the A building, go upstairs and all the way in the back, that's where the Career Center is. And they've got a group of employees their job is to help you find jobs, help you develop your resume. They can help you practice for interviews, make a career cover letter, all that kind of stuff. So if you want any assistance, reach out to the Career Hub. So you can also, was there something else? I think I covered it. Okay. Talking to people, going to networking events, asking people you know, hey, you know, looking for a job doing XYZ. Do you know anybody who's hiring? Sometimes just through word of mouth, you can get really good job opportunities. In fact, my first teaching job I ever got was through the newspaper back when that was the main place to look for jobs, was the newspaper. In fact, at the time, this was 2002, and I was hired to be an online instructor. I had dial-up at home. So I don't even know if you know what dial-up was, but it was really slow. People didn't have high-speed internet connections. You had to dial up through your phone line to get online. And that's how long I've been teaching, so 22 years. And so anyways, I got that job through the newspaper. The second teaching job I got, though, was my mother recommended that this friend of the family's sister taught for this online university in Minnesota. And so I connected with her. She sent in my resume, or she told me who to send the resume to, and I ended up getting the job. And I had that job for like 18 years. See, 2005, yeah, 18 years, because I quit last year. That's also where I got my doctorate, and I was tired of teaching for them. So I was like, as soon as this doctorate is done, because they were paying for it, as soon as it's done, I'm not going to teach for them anymore. So I was really excited to be able to tell them I'm done. I'm not, because well, it's a long story. I'm not going to go into it. But I used to like teaching for them, and then things changed. So anyways, through referrals could be a great way to find jobs. Job fairs, we have them sometimes on campus. There are other ones that are around that you can find and go to and pass out your resume to people. Temp agencies, that could be a great way. Actually, I've gotten jobs that way. My kids have gotten jobs that way. You sign up with a temp agency, employment agency, recruiting firm. They go by different sorts of names, but they can send you out on assignments with their clients. And it can be a really quick turnaround. You might sign up with a temp agency today, and they've already got an assignment for you tomorrow. The reason it's so fast is because you've already gone through their process, and the companies that use them are looking for workers really quickly. So that gets your foot in the door. Now, it might be just a short-term assignment, but it's a chance to check out the company, think, would I like working here? Do I like these people? Do I like this job? And if you do a good job, they might be interested in actually hiring you. So that can be a good way to find, permanent, not permanent really, but long-term employment is actually through a temp agency. Alan, I saw your hand.
Yeah, you said about job fairs, like Harnell, depending on the major, sometimes they offer like trips, like for certain events for certain majors. I do recommend that if there's any students here. I've gotten a job offer before by doing that, going out to San Diego and just networking in that event. Yeah, you can meet a lot of people. There's a lot of opportunity. I got the chance to go to New York because of that.
Wow.
So yeah, I do recommend that.
Were both of those through Hartnell?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you got to go to San Diego and New York.
Yeah.
And get jobs.
Yeah.
Cool. Were they internships?
Yes, but all to qualify into the job, but it's all the way in New York, and I already have my career going on.
Yeah, okay. But they're paid internships, and sometimes they're unpaid internships, but either way, it could be a good experience and a good way to broaden your network and check out some different opportunities. And then just walking around town, sometimes you just see a notice that somebody's hiring, right? You just walk in and maybe apply right there on the spot. So those are some different paths you could take to find job opportunities. We're still at a very low unemployment rate, so it's not that hard to find a job right now. Now, finding the job that pays what you want, that's a different story, right? But finding a job is not necessarily that hard. You might go through a period at some point where the unemployment rate goes up and it becomes harder to find a job. So it's generally a good idea, first of all, to have a resume. And again, the Career Center can help you with how to write your resume or improve your resume. And what you might want to do in some cases is revise that resume based on the job you're applying to. You don't want to put anything untrue, but you can focus it more like, let's say you're not sure if you want to work in an office or, I don't know, maybe at a hotel. Pretty different environments, right? So you might customize one version of your resume more for office jobs, focus on the experience and the skills that you think would be useful there. And then another one that's focused more on hospitality, right? So your objectives, your specific skills you list, your experience will focus more on that industry. Same thing with your cover letter. It's a good idea to customize it for that specific job. In fact, if you look at the job description, pull out some of the key words there and use those in your cover letter. They say they're looking for somebody that's energetic. Mention in your cover letter that you're energetic, if that's true. Right? Because seeing those keywords psychologically will help them say, hey, this person could be a good fit. And also, it could help their computer system. They have these applicant tracking systems, which are software programs that gather the resumes, filter through them. And probably they're starting to use AI for this as well. It will help them pick out your resume because it's got the right keywords in it. So then let's say you get the interview. They call you, they say, we're interested in having you come in for an interview. Okay, so how do you prepare? Read up about the company, go on their website, maybe look to see if there are news articles about this company. See what you can find out about things that are happening with the company. If they have any changes in management, if they're having a hard time, if they're really successful right now, if they've got new products coming out. Because when you go into that interview, if you can mention some of those things, again, that makes you look really good. Like, especially when it gets to the end and they ask, what questions do you have for us? You could say, oh, well, I read you're launching a new product in September. Well, how would my role help with that product launch? Or something like that. That would be a very impressive question to present. Now, they're going to be asking you questions too, right? So how many people have ever gone to a job interview? So you know what that's like, right? They ask you all kinds of questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are your greatest strengths and weaknesses? Why should I hire you for this job, right? They might ask you some behavioral questions, like, tell me about a time when you had an angry customer. How did you solve the problem? All these different things. So how could you prepare yourself for that interview? You don't know exactly what they say, right? But you could maybe guess. You could look up what are some common interview questions for this type of job. And then what could you do? Practice. Print out the questions that you found and have somebody read them to you. Practice answering. Or have them make up some questions too. Imagine the Career Center could probably help you with those interview techniques as well. And, you know, it gets easier with practice as well. And again, make sure you've got your questions at the end. If they say, what questions do you have? And you say, well, I don't really have any questions. That doesn't really sound impressive. Try to have a couple questions planned, maybe even write them down. So that when they ask you, you can say, oh, well, my questions were blah, 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 right? And if they've answered already some of those questions, that's okay. You can say, well, you answered my first question already, so I'm not going to ask you that one. But my second question was, it's good to have something, because it shows that you are interested enough in the job to have thought ahead about what if I get this job? You know, what's it going to be like? What are the, you know, what's the work environment? How can I, and actually, yeah, that's a good point. If you can phrase your questions in ways to make you look good, if you could say something like, what could I do to be successful if I'm hired into this job? They're thinking, oh, this person doesn't just want the job, they want to be successful, right? So you're asking a question, but you're actually helping to sell yourself as a good candidate. Then, I was going to say this is obvious. Maybe it's not that obvious, but dress for success. So you're going to the interview at the hotel, and let's say it's for a front desk position. You want to be dressed nicely. Not a tuxedo, but you know, for men, slacks and a dress shirt, or maybe a jacket, maybe a tie, right? And for women, something professional. Christina? I think, yes, you could ask it. Let me think about why. I mean, how you would ask that question in a way that's not going to come off too like you're prying into their business, right? How could you say it? Anybody have a good way to phrase that? Mm-hmm.
How does the job opening
Come about?
yeah.
Okay, that's kind of softer. You know,
Or maybe, are you guys filling many of these positions, or why is it? Is there what has been a difficulty? What has the previous employee difficult about this position?
yeah, that's a great question. What you don't want is to put the person in an awkward position, or let's say that the job opening is because the last person just got fired, or you know, whatever. Well, maybe, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, but they're the wrong people to ask.
you could ask something like, maybe how long do employees tend to stay with your organization? I think it's kind of softer. No, that'd be okay to ask. So as I was saying, if you go to the hotel job opening for front desk, you want to dress one way. If you're going to go to something that's going to be more outdoors, then you don't want to wear a suit, right? In fact, if the people at that company tend to wear jeans and cowboy boots, you might want to show up in jeans and cowboy boots, right? That, you know, subliminally kind of says you're a good match. So, and then after the interview, it's a great touch if there's time to mail an actual thank you card to whoever has interviewed you. However, you don't always have time, because if they're going to get back to you in a couple days, they might not get the mail by then, right? So in that case, maybe just send an email and say, it's great meeting with you. I'm really interested in the opportunity. I think I could really exceed your expectations in this position, or something, whatever. Again, it's another opportunity to sell yourself kind of lightly. And I look forward to hearing from you. Something just nice, short, and simple like that is a nice touch. So there might be things on this list that you wouldn't have remembered or thought of necessarily to do. So again, using a checklist could be useful. Also, oh, one more thing. You could also keep track if you've applied to 100 different jobs and gotten interviews with 6 or 7, it could be easy to start mixing them up, right? So keep track of who you spoke to on what date, what they said, right? So you could also kind of incorporate that tracking system into your checklist. Miss Emma?
I would just say when I worked at Wells Fargo, they would look at social media. So if
yeah.
you have your social media, like your private, your contact, you're gonna get this. No, like, you know, they would, I know, yeah.
Yes.
She's in HR, and the people who did that were not even the HR people.
Yeah.
They were the managers who were gonna be doing the interviews and the branches that we were
That's
gonna
true.
be working at. So they would already have a first impression of you.
Based on your social media
Based on
profile.
your social
Yep.
media. And a
Yep.
lot of big companies that I don't know so much.
Mhm.
corporate
I know some small companies do.
That's only if your account's public though, right? Or,
Yeah, but obviously they can't see it if you're private, like I have mine so private where like you can only. So
Mm.
like, you know,
so if
that
it's-
most people can't spell my name anyway.
Oh.
But yeah, they would figure it out, they have your resume, so I can't tell you how many people they would be. Like the manager would be there at her desk, like, oh, look at this person, oh my god, like really, she went to work at the bank and I'm like,
Wow.
damn.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, we could link it to.
Yeah, those, any online profile is very important.
Mhm. Yeah, it could actually, if it looks very professional, that could help you get the job, right?
Even
So it
your
could actually
email,
work
you
for
should have an appropriate email.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be
Yeah.
like your 16-year-old email,
Yeah.
like 420, 460, like whatever, like you wanna have a professional one too.
Okay. Any other thoughts on how you might use a checklist for your career search? Jordan?
I know you said about the Career Center, how they do like practice interviews. A lot of times, interviews, especially with like corporate type of places or government or whatever, will ask like really similar
Yes.
questions. So it's good to like think about what they would ask and like kind of have answers ready and stuff.
Right, exactly. My daughter had an interview recently and she asked me to help her prep for it. And so I gave her what are some of the standard questions and they've used most of those standard questions. So it really did help her to prepare. Jahira?
how would you respond if let's just say they sprung a question on you that you weren't prepared for? Like, "Hmm, that's a good question. Like, can you like spin back to it, or would it still not look good?"
I mean, you could say, can I have a moment to think about that? I think that's fine. If you ask to come back to it later, they're probably not gonna be real happy with that because they might forget or you might forget. So I think they're gonna want an answer.
You could say that's a really good question. Can you reword it?
Buy yourself a little time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, recently I've been doing a lot of interviews with government and, really annoying with them is they have like a really exact script and they're not allowed to stray from it at all. So if you ask them to like clarify a question, they just say like they can't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. When we do interviews here, and I'm involved sometimes on hiring committees, we have to stick to the question. We could maybe clarify a little bit, but we have to be really careful that it's consistent. So everybody that we interview gets asked the exact same questions. So yeah, that's a good
You
point.
can, instead of just asking clarify, just ask them to repeat the question. If you already know they're not gonna change it, like in the government, I have to have the time to do it. I would just ask them to repeat the question. So that you.
So it could buy you a little time and help clarify what it is that they're asking as well.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
You have that TED Talk on the invention track where she's talking about stuff for yourself, where you go to like Not you who posted that, but.
Is that the one about how to make stress your friends?
No, could be, do you remember just talking about your body posture, like before you go to the interview, like, do you like your power poses, like Superwoman?
I do remember, I don't remember which one that is though. but
I think
yeah.
I put more, I think you should put that up for the kids, because she talked about that in the interview specifically, that you
Mm.
feel more confident before you walk into the interview by doing like your power pose.
It makes a difference, yeah. But I would go into the interview, well, with the mindset that they're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them. Right? Because you don't have to take that job, right? You want to make sure it's the right match for you too. You're not feeling like it's all about you under the microscope. They're under the microscope too. All right, there is a module in Canvas about your career in business, which is not required, so feel free if you're interested in looking through that for more ideas about business careers. And that is it for this presentation here. We are going to do an activity that I have planned. Some of you might have done it before, but hopefully not. And then we are going to move on. I'm going to show you, God bless you, what to do for the checklist activity. And then once you're done with that, and your other 4 sheets, as I mentioned earlier, are also done on the spreadsheet, then just come up and show me. This is assuming you've got your laptop with you, and you'll be done for the day. So before we get to the project, before we get to the project, let me stop the recording.